The sky above the coastal city shimmered with morning light, streaks of gold spilling across the glass towers that touched the clouds. Inside the marble lobby of the Ashcroft Aeronautics headquarters, people moved quickly, heels clicking, coffee steaming, voices echoing off the walls like a well-tuned symphony of ambition. But standing among them, holding a small boy's hand and a worn-out backpack over his shoulder, was a man who didn't belong there. His name was Ethan Cole, and though his clothes were clean, they were far from polished. His face carried the roughness of hard work and sleepless nights, but his eyes, steady and calm, held something far more commanding than wealth: dignity. He wasn't there to beg for a job or ask for charity. He was there for the meeting of his life, though no one in that building could have guessed who he truly was. "Sir, you'll have to wait," said the receptionist politely, glancing at his faded jeans before returning to her keyboard. Ethan nodded, quietly leading his son to the seating area. 7-year-old Landon looked around in awe, whispering, "Dad, this place is huge." Ethan smiled softly, ruffling his hair. "Yeah, bud, it's big. But remember, big places don't always mean big hearts." Before we dive deeper, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that restore faith in humanity, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your support keeps these true-to-heart stories alive for millions who still believe good people can rise again. Back in the waiting area, Ethan checked his wristwatch. He was early, intentionally. It wasn't just a meeting, it was an opportunity to change both their lives. For months, he'd been developing a unique helicopter engine prototype, something that could cut fuel consumption by half. But because he wasn't a known engineer or a corporate name, nobody took him seriously. Except one person, an anonymous investor who had agreed to meet him through an email exchange signed only as Mrs. W. When the elevator doors opened, a hush swept through the lobby. Out stepped Victoria Whitmore, the poised, graceful wife of billionaire CEO Damien Whitmore, a woman the tabloids called the Diamond of the Sky. She wore a white suit, pearl earrings, and a calm smile that made people move aside instinctively. Ethan didn't know her by sight. Not yet. But when she approached the receptionist and said, "I'm here for Mr. Cole," the entire room turned toward him. Ethan rose, slightly confused, but extended his hand. "I'm Ethan Cole. Thank you for meeting me." Her smile was gentle but controlled. "You're the one who designed the hybrid rotor model?" He nodded. "I've reviewed your blueprints. They're unconventional. I prefer unpredictable," he said with a quiet grin. "That's what keeps aircraft in the air." Something in his voice, humble, firm, and strangely familiar, made her study him longer than necessary. She gestured toward the private elevator. "Let's talk upstairs." Inside the glass-walled conference room, Ethan laid out the engine diagrams, explaining every valve, gear, and airflow mechanism with calm confidence. Victoria listened, fascinated, though her expression grew distant whenever Ethan mentioned his late wife. A talented mechanical engineer who had passed away 2 years earlier. "She was the brains," he said softly, tracing a finger over a sketch. "I just promised I'd finish what she started. It's all I can give my boy, her dream." Victoria swallowed hard. "You're raising him alone?" "Yeah," Ethan said. "Just me, a few power tools, and a lot of late nights. He deserves better than the world's given us so far." When the presentation ended, Victoria closed the folder and said quietly, "You'll hear from us soon." But her voice trembled slightly, as if something had cracked beneath the surface. What Ethan didn't know was that Victoria wasn't just the CEO's wife. She was the secret investor who'd reached out to him months ago under that anonymous email. And she had her reasons. Her husband's company, Ashcroft Aeronautics, had been built on ruthless business deals, swallowing small inventors' dreams and repackaging their ideas for profit. Victoria had seen too many men like Ethan crushed by corporate greed. Maybe this was her silent rebellion, her chance to help a good man win for once. 2 weeks passed. Silence, no calls, no emails. Ethan's savings dwindled to almost nothing. Landon's school had sent another fee reminder. Hope began to fade like paint under rain. He'd been here before, on the edge of giving up. But that night, as he tucked Landon into bed, the boy asked, "Dad, what if they don't call because they're scared you're smarter than them?" Ethan smiled sadly. "Then we'll build something they can't ignore." And he did. Over the next month, he converted his backyard into a mini workshop. With borrowed tools, scrap metal, and sheer will, he built a functioning prototype, rough, imperfect, but real. On a bright Saturday morning, as the sun rose over the city, the sound of helicopter blades thundered from a nearby field. Neighbors rushed out, shielding their eyes, as a small experimental chopper hovered 10 feet off the ground. Inside the cockpit, Ethan gripped the controls, sweat running down his face. The hybrid rotors spun with smooth precision. Landon stood below, waving proudly. "That's my dad's helicopter!" The test flight was short but perfect, and that video, recorded by a bystander, went viral within hours. Single dad builds working hybrid helicopter prototype from scrap. The clip flooded social media. Soon, the Ashcroft boardroom was buzzing with executives demanding answers. "Who is this Ethan Cole?" barked CEO Damian Whitmore, slamming the table. "That engine design looks awfully similar to the one in our R&D department." Victoria stayed silent, her heart pounding. She knew this was her doing, and she knew what her husband was capable of. He would either destroy Ethan or try to claim the invention as his own. That night, she sat in her home office, staring out the window as city lights blinked below. And then she made a decision that would change everything. The next morning, as Ethan finished packing Landon's lunch, a black car pulled up outside his house. 2 men in suits stepped out. "Mr. Cole," one said politely. "Mrs. Whitmore would like a word, privately." Ethan's heart skipped. He didn't know what to expect, but when he arrived at the Whitmore estate, a mansion surrounded by manicured gardens and a helipad gleaming in the sun, he felt completely out of place. Victoria met him on the terrace, her face pale and tense. "Ethan," she said quietly, "you need to leave the city. My husband knows about your design. He's furious. He thinks you stole from his company, but you didn't." "I did." Ethan stared in shock. "You? I sent you those funds. I used my personal savings to help you, but if he finds out, he'll bury your invention, and you with it." Ethan's jaw tightened. "You shouldn't have to risk everything for me." Victoria's voice cracked. "I'm not risking it for you, Ethan. I'm doing it because I see what my husband destroyed in others. Hope, decency, honesty. You reminded me of what I lost years ago." Before he could answer, the distant roar of helicopter blades filled the air. A massive Ashcroft chopper descended onto the helipad. Victoria froze. "He's home early," she whispered. "He wasn't supposed to." The helicopter door opened, and Damian Whitmore stepped out, tall, grey-haired, his face carved with arrogance, his gaze locked on Ethan instantly. "Who the hell is this?" Victoria stepped forward. "Damian, please." "Don't please me," he barked. "This man stole my prototype, and now he's standing in my home?" Ethan took a deep breath. "With respect, sir, I didn't steal anything. I built it from my wife's old designs. You can check every bolt and circuit." Damian sneered. "You're a backyard mechanic, not an engineer. You don't belong in the same airspace as us." Something inside Ethan snapped. He looked out toward the distant city skyline and then back at the helicopter parked on the lawn. "Actually," he said, voice low but steady, "I do belong. Because that," he pointed past Damian, his eyes blazing, "that's my helicopter outside." Silence fell like thunder. Victoria's face went pale. Damian turned, disbelief etching across his face as he recognized the machine from the viral video. His expression flickered between rage and shock. "That engine," Ethan continued, "runs cleaner, faster, and longer than anything your company's built. And I'll prove it, right now." Before anyone could stop him, Ethan strode toward the helicopter, climbed inside, and fired up the engine. The rotors began to spin, smooth and powerful. Landon, who'd been waiting quietly by the car, ran forward, eyes wide with pride. "Go, Dad!" The chopper lifted into the air, hovering above the estate, sunlight gleaming off its handmade frame. Damien shielded his face from the wind, his jaw tightening as the machine soared upward. Victoria's eyes filled with tears, not from fear, but awe. When Ethan landed, the crowd of household staff erupted in applause. Victoria stepped closer, whispering, "You just made history." Damien couldn't speak. He turned away, humiliated, but Victoria faced Ethan with quiet strength. "You don't need this company's approval anymore. The world already knows your name." She handed him a folder. Legal papers she had prepared in secret. "Patent rights. In your name. It's yours now, Ethan." He stared at her, overcome. "Why are you doing this?" She smiled faintly. "Because once in a while the sky should belong to the right people." Weeks later, Ethan's design was purchased by an international aerospace firm under his own brand, Cole Aerodynamics.